Oh boy, this is going to ruffle some feathers. Now, this is the 7th anniversary of the EU being declared non-canon. This isn't going to be a video ranting about how much bullshit it is that the EU is no longer canon or how it's bullshit that the EU was discontinued. No, this is not what this video is going to be about this time. This time, I'm going to be doing objectively why the EU movement has failed in its goals to continue Legends and why it hasn't been actually a relevant, part of the Star Wars fandom since 2017. Now, some of you are probably gonna bring up, but what about the new Marvel comic? What about some new action figures related to the EU? Okay, let's just address those right now. First off, Luke Skywalker getting having his action figure based on a scene from one of the Star Wars novels, Heir to Empire. That is easy to debunk. They could easily take one of the molds that already exist for Luke Skywalker and turn a figure out of it. It isn't making Thrawn into a figure based on the original version of the character. It's not Pelion. It's not Mora Jade. It's just a character that they already have a figure made. They just tweak the mold to make it look like the cover that you see in one of the Star Wars comics. That's not an argument. As for the Marvel 108, do I really need to go here? Marvel 108 was not exclusively the only thing Marvel made that year. All of its Marvel comics had an 80th anniversary issue. It wasn't just Star Wars. The sad truth is, Marvel 108 only existed because of an anniversary. It wasn't to try to prove if there was interest in Legends. That's all it was an anniversary issue. Nothing more, nothing less. This is not to knock the quality of Marvel 108. But I have to be objective here. That Marvel 108 was not made because there was demand for the EU. It was made because it was an anniversary issue. And another issue with this is, after that comic came out, it seemed like EU fans were just like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. We got a new comic. They didn't actually ask for more. That's it. It felt like they were just satisfied with just that one comic. And that, honestly, then again, at that point, with almost 2 years of no progress, I could understand why they would feel that way. But whose fault is it that people got to that point where they were satisfied with one comic? I would say that those who were in charge of the billboard in 2016, rather than actually learn why it was successful, because the first billboard got positive press. It actually got traction. There was a time where a lot of people knew what the EU movement was. Even if there's people that misrepresented what it was about, the fact is they didn't capitalize on it and actually, I don't know, go to more Star Wars conventions. There was a lot of things they could have done rather than be isolated on the internet on a Facebook group who does nothing but freaking complain about stupid nonsense. That's the issue. And another problem with Give Us Legends, what does it actually mean to give us Legends? Because there's people who are fans of the EU that only care about certain aspects. Some care about the Old Republic, some care about Clone Wars, and people like me, I purely care about the post-Return of the Jedi stuff. The EU movement would have been far more effective if it actually had one particular book that it wanted published. Sword of the Jedi. We don't know how far they got into the outline of that book. I think, in my opinion, there would have been more success if they pushed for that book to be published. I believe it would have gotten more traction. And had sort of the Jedi been published, it would have opened up the doors for more EU books. And that's the issue. When people here give us legends, the average person doesn't even know what that even means. Because the average person's like, give us legends. Don't you guys have like an entire bookshelf of legends books? That's what the average person would look. And not to mention, barely anybody knew what the EU movement was. And you can't expect people who are only familiar with the Star Wars films to know what Legends is. That's the responsibility of those who are in a movement pushing for more of this stuff to begin with. And another issue with the EU movement is the lack of knowledge on what is going on at large with the Star Wars fandom. Because a lot of these people's mindsets was stuck in 2016. I shit you not. Nobody knew what the Fandom Menace was on Facebook. In these groups. I was at one point part of a group with most of the leadership of the old EU movement. I tried to bring the attention of what happened with Iron Inquisitor. And they did not know anything about the Fandom Menace. Frustrated, I left that group and the Alliance because nobody was taking the threat of the Fandom Menace seriously. These people were so out of date, they didn't even know there was a backlash with The Last Jedi to the extent that there was. They were so out of touch that it wasn't until mid-2019 is when they finally knew what the Fandom Menace was. And honestly, I just don't know what to say about that. I mean, how can you be in the Star Wars fandom and not know what the Fandom Menace is? Especially if you're active on social media. They were all over Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. How can anyone not know who they were? But this is just how out of touch they were with the fandom. The EU old guard were out of touch with the EU, with the entirety of the fandom. They didn't know what was going on because they didn't bother getting out of their echo chambers and actually seeing what the average Star Wars fan is talking about. Yeah, they may have ventured once in a while to maybe vote for a character like Revan and Jaina, but that's it. And in fact, speaking of which, I had to fight tooth and nail to help get Jaina made as a figure, because I was trying to convincingly at the time that if Jaina were to win the poll in 2016, it actually would be better than having a video game character win, because Jaina is from a novel, Starkiller is from a video game. Yeah, I had to fight many people to help get Jaina made. Now, I'm not going to say I'm the sole reason Jaina got made, but I did play a part in helping get that figure made. And I will say for certain that it wasn't pleasant for me. I felt proud that I had a part in it, but again, every victory the EU movement had, it didn't actually capitalize on anything. The more time went by when the EU was declared non-canon, the more apparent that it became that they were out of touch. Nobody in the leadership is actually knowledgeable about what's currently going on in canon. Are there people in the movement that do know canon? Yes, there is, but they're not in high positions of power. The disorganization of the EU movement is why it has failed completely. And anybody that says it hasn't, it lives in a fantasy land. What have the EU movement done to get us closer to getting more legends? Tell me. Where's Sword of the Jedi? Where's Imperial Commando 2? Where's Force Unleashed 3? Where are they? Why don't I have them on my bookshelf? The silence says it all. Because they don't fucking exist. They were never published. We're not any closer to getting those stories published now than we were in 2014. In fact, I argue we're even further away from it. Because the talk of the fandom right now isn't the EU, whether it's was and or once is canon. It's Mandalorian. It's the Bad Batch. It's all these new shows. It's the High Republic. That is the talk right now. The opportunity of getting Legends continued has passed. No matter what is done at this point, the further along we get from the original date that it was decanonized, the more difficult it is to convince people to fight for more Legends. You know, Rise of Skywalker was the perfect opportunity, same thing with The Last Jedi Backlash, to actually increase the numbers. But the fact is, they didn't push for Sword of the Jedi to get published. They didn't push for Sword of the Jedi to be finished, or any unfinished Star Wars novel, for that matter. At all. I mean, the goal is vague to the average fucking person that doesn't know anything about the EU. And, honestly, that's why it's failed. It's not the fault of Disney canon Star Wars fans why it failed. It's not my fault. I know some people would like to blame me and other people for why it failed. It's the fault of the EU Old Guard for being so out of touch what's going on in the Star Wars fandom that they cannot see that we are not in any position to ask for more Legends, and we're actually in a more difficult spot now than we ever were before. Is it impossible to get more Legends? The chances of it are very slim at this point. Mainly because the movement has, for the most part, retreated into fantasy land, claim victories when they don't exist, like Marvel 108. That's like one new comic, and again, Marvel released anniversary comics for other comics besides Star Wars. We did not get new Legends material based on that. Celebrating Marvel 108 is like celebrating freaking... It's like getting a freaking something that was expected, if you actually understood how the comic world works. For the way things look right now, fan fiction is probably the most realistic possibility to get Legends continued at this point. Because, as it stands now, none of the fans could agree of what they want for Legends. None of them could actually give a clear goal to Disney or Lucasfilm. I mean, I've had to be real. The real membership of the EU movement is not even the tens of thousands. It's not. It's not even close. At best, it's like 4,000 to 5,000 people at most. And if you look at the Star Wars books, Facebook, and Twitter, it's the same few individuals commenting. I would like to have more Legends. I want more Legends. I want more Legends. I want more Legends. Going around saying you want more Legends is not going to fucking get you more. What's going to get you more is to have actual support. And I know some of you are going to bring up, oh, the Snyder Cut was successful. There's definitely hope for Legends. I'm sorry to say this, but the amount of people that wanted the Snyder Cut outnumbers what EU fans want, like, by 100 times. There already was, backing from people who don't even know that much about Zack Snyder, who don't even like Zack Snyder, that wanted to see that cut. You can't compare movies to getting more books and comics. Movies have a bigger audience. It's like comparing apples and oranges. It really is. The Snyder Cut was successful because it was something that was already made for the most part. There was a huge demand for it. And that is that. Is there a demand for more Legends? Yes. I'm pretty sure there's people who aren't even part of the movement that would love to actually see more stories in Legends. They either have moved on or no longer care that much because it's been so long. And it failed objectively because there wasn't a clear goal from the very beginning. When you say give us legends, what do you actually mean? And I'm removing myself from this. What is the average person who is a Star Wars fan who doesn't have that much knowledge about Star Wars, maybe outside the films, maybe they've read a few novels here and there, what do they see when they see give us legends? And another thing, those who are most likely to support new legend stories being published, who aren't, fans of the EU now, are those who currently read canon. Because they're Star Wars fans, they're hungry for more Star Wars, they don't care about canon or legends, they just want to read Star Wars. Those are the people you should be going for. Those who are new into Star Wars, who are diving into canon, you could have actually introduced them a Legends book, and you could have gained a new fan that way. But no. Instead, you're stuck in your old ways, and the EU membership of the movement has dwindled significantly throughout the years. How did the strategy of using Ryan Kinnell's platform worked for you? How has that worked? How's that worked? He basically threw you under the bus. Yeah, you may appear in a few streams here and there, but how's that worked for you? Geeks and Gamers has thrown you under the bus. You are in the same spot as you were in 2014. In fact, I argue you're worse off than you were in 2014. Anybody that sees you now, when they see that all the top dogs of the EU Old Guard are basically streaming with Geeks and Gamers, one of the people that actually shitted on us years ago, or Ryan Kinnell, a open racist on Twitter, who constantly does a bunch of dog whistles. No. The kind of image that you give off to those who don't know that much is going to turn people away from your movement. And I'm just going to be blunt. The EU movement did not die when Matt Wilkins basically embraced the Fandom Menace. It died long before that. It died when the Fandom Menace was born. Because when the Fandom Menace was born, it got every entitled fanboy of every part of the Star Wars fandom under one banner. And that is why the EU movement failed. The Fandom Menace, as much as I hate to say this, not only were they more organized, which they clearly are, they're smarter, they're actually able to provide an image for themselves, at the very beginning anyway, of them being not gatekeepers, not intolerant. They were actually able to attract all kinds of people. And that is the issue with the EU Old Guard. They never fucking adapted. The Fandom Menace capitalized, especially Jeremy. I'll have to give him credit for one thing. He ain't stupid. The guy knows what he's doing. Capitalized on people's anger over The Last Jedi and took advantage of that to gain mass support. That's why the Fandom Menace succeeded, where you guys failed. They actually saw an opportunity and capitalized it. You guys saw an opportunity and chose to do nothing with it. You let your own success in 2016 get to your head, to the point where 2016 is nothing but a distant memory at this point. And your billboards that you had in 2020 was mocked. People made fun of the billboard. It was mocked to oblivion. 2020 for the EU movement is basically going to live in infamy. You did the same thing you did in 2016, and what are you going to do in 2022 or 2024? Are you going to do the same thing? And I really do mean this. Unless you change your tactics, unless you adapt to the modern times, the EU movement will continue to be irrelevant. It has failed and will continue to fail, because you cannot gain mass support from the people that would actually have supported you to begin with. And it breaks my heart to say this. I don't think the EU movement will ever be able to succeed. Not with its current leadership.